feel like
so could we then go to more recent times, and so tell me about your life this time last year, your life as an instructor and a teacher, and what then happened over the subsequent few months as we went in our first period of lockdown and from then till now.
So that is, I'm a professional teacher. It's my only income. And when things started to lock down, but fortunately my wife is in full-time employment. But it was very, very difficult, very difficult. It was hard to know, this is not new. It's hard to know what to do first. And online was quickly grasped as an opportunity for at least retaining some form of contact, some form of practice, even if it's not ideal. And I don't believe it's ideal, even though there's still benefits to it. But what had also happened actually for me is that I'd actually moved out of London down to Margate. So I now live in Margate. And so I had already actually begun having a debate in myself is how do I extract myself from my school and my students in London, and how do I recreate this in my new community? And actually COVID lockdown just forced my hand. I was like, oh, well, I can't now. So other than online, where I retained nearly all of my students, it was a weird time of not being, and again, nothing new, everyone experienced it, but not being in contact with people physically. I'm a very physical person. In my instruction, I'm very physical. So it was another level of education on me as a teacher to try and make sure that the principles are being employed whilst I was looking on all the little cameras down the edge of the screen, zooming in and making sure that principles were being applied throughout the time. And so adding another level on to my ability to teach and convey information, which was rewarding and still beneficial for the students as well. But financially, it was very difficult. Remains very difficult. But it's wonderful to be able to get these whispers of, lockdown does look like it's finishing now. And I had a few outdoor classes over the weekend and last week. So one-on-ones, obviously, we're still classing as exercise, of course. And it was lovely to be in that position again. Again, might not be able to get close enough to make adjustments, but again, just conveying vocally what adjustments might need to be made. It's been a very interesting and challenging time, but I practice every day and I feel good.
Excellent.
If you didn't have the practice, I feel like if you don't have that daily practice, daily body-based practice and a mind-body-based practice, then I worry for people.
And on that note, it has been tough for people around the world during these last 12 months. And many people who were maybe had a Tai Chi practice or beginning one have contracted COVID and have been dealing with kind of maybe long COVID and post-viral recovery, dealing with fatigue and things like that. And from your perspective of finding a route to internal arts from a place of challenge and adversity, and with the people you've in turn been supporting yourself, what would your advice be to people who are struggling with post-COVID health difficulties and wanting to develop their own internal arts practice?
If they've been introduced to any practice that they find valuable, whether that's Tai Chi, Qigong, standing practices, internal alchemy, whatever it is, yoga is just another internal art as far as I've never practiced it. But if you've been introduced to something, those practices in isolation carry incredible value and benefit. So even if let's say you've been introduced to Tai Chi 24 and you only know horse stance, bow stance, and the transition back into hanging stance, again, I'm assuming for your audience that this is all making sense. If you only know that and you don't know any hand, you haven't been taught the hands yet, Tai Chi walking holds great benefit, not just for the mind, because it's very meditative, just going for as long as you can. That's how I was taught originally. I was just made to Tai Chi walk for miles and miles and miles and then turn around and come back. With no hands involved. It was just, but it was very meditative. But also you open your hips, you learn how to close a hip and stretch one hip. You stretch your hips as you roll back and shift your weight. So, and all of the importance of healing and developing a sense of well-being, really, we have to start low down and work at the level of the hips. So if all you've got is Tai Chi walking, keep practicing. Just keep practicing. Practice for an hour every day. Or if similarly, if all you've been introduced to is standing practice, just stand for longer, because in isolation, that has been designed specifically to help you through adversity and challenging mental and physical experiences.
Yeah.
Or if you've only been taught Baduan Jin, keep practicing, because every single one of those practices in isolation, every one of them, just practice. Even if you know only 2 of Baduan Jin, practice those 2, because in isolation, they are specifically designed to help you mentally and physically through adversity.
Yeah.
So whatever you've got, practice it more, and you will get there. But you do have to dedicate time and energy to it.
And do you think that focus on tension and reducing tension is something that's a key part of that journey from a point of ill health?
Yeah, so this takes me on to, I suppose this is sort of my main point, my main perspective, is that tension and inflammation is really the root cause of all evil in our, evil, it's not the word I would normally use, but the root cause of all disease and ill health. And so what we normally try and do when we feel tense or we're ill is our normal approach is to just endure and just carry on. And I understand that probably better than most. As a soldier, I'm a master of endurance, literally a master. But it has a limit to its benefits. And in the end, it's actually unhealthy to keep enduring. Because if you keep enduring physical tension, then more tension, it requires tension to endure. So you're only adding in more and more tension into your system, that you're more and more of which you're going to have to endure if that's your approach. And so why I love the internal arts so much is that we're taught to find tension in our body, and we're taught how to relax and release tension from our body. And this is why I label myself as a resilient personal resilience specialist, is because resilience is very different to endurance. Endurance is just the denial of your suffering, the denial of your experience, and just carry on going and hoping everything will work out well in the end. And there is some benefit to being able to do that, but it has clear limits. Whereas resilience, we learn to go inside our body, find out what's wrong, and normally we'll find pretty quickly, especially if we do things like 5 animals or standing practices, we're going to find real quick that we're holding a lot of tension in our body. But we don't just find the tension, the practices are there to help us release that tension as well. So we've found the cause, we've got the answer in the same practice. And once you've released that tension, you not only release that tension, but you're also given tools through the practice to resist developing more habitual tension as you are introduced to stress, which is a normal part of life, but you don't hold on to stress in the way that you would have before. So you're learning to release superficial tension. You're learning to release habitual tension, which if it's very habitual, I class that as trauma. So then you're releasing superficial tension, habitual tension, and trauma if you spend long enough practicing. You're releasing it, and then once it's gone, because the practice has also given you tools, behavioral tools, to move forward, where you don't allow stress to create more habitual tension or more trauma, aside from accidents and things like this. I'm just talking about normal life.
Yeah.
And so resilience helps us then overcome. And then we're off and running. We're not enduring anymore. We're not carrying around our baggage anymore. We've set our baggage down back along the road a piece, and we're further down the path than we ever thought imaginable, just because we keep practicing every day and employing the principles. Can't just blindly practice something. Principles are there for a reason, because that's where the work is done. So
it's wonderful, and it's so timely, Keith. I think, just these words are going to be really valuable for people to hear right now in early March 2021. As things open up, just to finish, if people wanted to connect with you and find you, what can people expect from your activities over the next few months?
So I'm happy to do online classes as well. So I don't teach internal martial arts online, but I do teach Qigong exercises and alchemical practices online. It's not ideal, but I do. If anyone's in the Kent, specifically the Thanet area, then group practices will be starting up in, is April, I think it is, inside at least. And then even before that, I think we're all able to do outdoor classes for
29th of March. We can do 8 outdoor groups.
Right. So I'm going to be doing that. I've already there's plenty of areas around here where I can do that, on the beach or even in my garden. I have a select few students that come to my own back garden. So yeah, there's options available. If Kent, then you can come and see me directly. Or if you're in London, sometimes I'm in London and I can do private classes. But if you're interested in online classes, I have Canadians and American students and all sorts. So anything is possible.
Amazing. And the link to Keith's website is below. Thank you so much, Keith. Thank you for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, mate. It's good to see your face.
Yeah.